All right, we're getting some live visuals from Delhi where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to arrive shortly. These are the live visuals of the airport where India is all set to roll the red carpet for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister Modi will be personally welcoming Israeli Prime Minister at the airport, and these are live visuals that we are getting for you. A few minutes from now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will arrive in Delhi and will kickstart his 6-day visit to India. He'll be meeting External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also on this day, and then tomorrow there'll be a formal welcome for the Israeli Prime Minister at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, following which he would lay a wreath at Rajghat, and then he will be also meeting top businessmen, and he'll be having a dialogue at the Hyderabad House, which will include a one-on-one discussion with Prime Minister Modi and meetings with Indian President Ramnath Kovind and Vice President Venkaiah Naidu are also scheduled for tomorrow. Following which Netanyahu, who's also accompanied by his wife Sarah, will be travelling to Agra to see the Taj Mahal, and then he will return to Delhi to participate in that Raisina dialogue. He will then head to Gujarat on Wednesday, where he will be welcomed with a roadshow in Ahmedabad. That roadshow is expected to be an 8-kilometer drive from the airport to the Sabarmati Ashram, and where Prime Minister Modi and his Israeli counterpart will be witnessing several innovative technologies. And after that, Netanyahu will head to Mumbai, where he will meet the celebrities. Another important thing that I may want to point out for our viewers is that today, when Prime Minister Modi and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives in India, he will be participating in a solemn ceremony at the Teen Murti Memorial. This to pay homage to the soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice. The leaders, both the leaders, will lay a wreath and sign the visitors' book. This ceremony will also mark the former renaming of the Teen Murti Chowk as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. Now let's tell you more about the Haifa Chowk in detail. The 3 bronze statues that we all see in Delhi are at the Teen Murti. They represent the Hyderabad, Jodhpur and Mysore Lancers. These were the part of 15 Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade that participated in the First World War and helped Israel get its city of Haifa back in the First World War. So in that, keeping that historic significance in mind, the Teen Murti Marg in Delhi will be renamed to Teen Murti Haifa Chowk today. So soon after Israeli Prime Minister arrives in Delhi at the airport, he will then head to the Teen Murti Marg with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where both the leaders will pay homage to the soldiers who laid down their lives for liberation of Haifa city in the First World War. To give you more background, the brigade, the 15th Imperial Service Brigade, the Cavalry Brigade, carried out the victorious assault on the fortified city of Haifa on 23rd of September in 1918 during the First World War. And in that, there are various historic accounts that narrate the brave valor and sacrifice with which these Indian soldiers undertook the assault on the garrison town protected by a joint force of Ottomans, Germany, Austria and Hungary. And the capture of Haifa cleared a route for the Allies to supply to the city through the sea. 44 Indian soldiers, remember 44 Indian soldiers had made the ultimate sacrifice during the liberation of Haifa city in Israel. And on your screens are the live visuals of that red carpet that India has rolled out for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's going to arrive in New Delhi shortly. And Prime Minister Modi is there at the airport to welcome his Israeli counterpart, and from there the two will head to Teen Murti Marg to pay homage to the soldiers who helped Israel recapture the town of Haifa in the First World War, where they were fighting against the Ottomans, Austria, Hungary and Germany troops. And 44 Indian troops made that supreme sacrifice with their lives. And these are the latest visuals from the international airport in Delhi, where Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, is shortly going to land and with his wife Sarah, and then he's on a 6-day visit to India. Today is the first day where he'll be meeting Prime Minister Modi, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Tomorrow is the day where he will be given a formal welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He'll be meeting, of course, Ramnath Kovind and Vice President Venkaiah Naidu. Then from there he'll head to Agra, where he'll visit the historic Taj Mahal. After that he'll go to Gujarat, which is Prime Minister Modi's home state. And after that, the last day of his 6-day visit is Mumbai, where he'll be meeting the top-notch celebrities, the who's who of India's film industry. Remember, India and Israel are very, very strong allies. One of the closest allies that India has is Israel, and this visit is historic in a lot of ways. But there was a bit of a hiccup in the ties between India and Israel when recently at the United Nations, India voted against Israel and the US in a resolution which when the US recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and the UN in that assembly, India voted against Israel, but nothing has sort of dented the ties as far as both countries are concerned. And today we see Israeli Prime Minister kick-starting his 6-day visit, historic visit to India. A lot of things are on the table. If you talk about trade, if you talk about defense, if you talk about Bollywood, because at this moment Israel also wants to open its doors to Bollywood, and lately we've seen how gradually the Indian film industry is making inroads into Israel, and they're shooting there because at this moment there are some countries who believe that there are some human rights issues with Israel, which is why there's a boycott movement that's going on against Israel. And at this moment Israel is looking for possibilities that it can explore as far as culture is concerned. Remember, Israel has also done a lot as far as its water conservation is concerned, its technologies that it's adopted to fix and improve its agriculture. And there you see live visuals of that aircraft in which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is. He's going to shortly appear in front of the officials, and of course Prime Minister Modi, who's there to personally receive his Israeli counterpart. Benjamin Netanyahu is accompanied by his wife, and he's on a 6-day visit. He's landed at Delhi. These are live visuals that we are getting for you from the national capital, New Delhi. This is the first time an Israeli Prime Minister has arrived in India in the last 15 years, and this also comes in the backdrop of Prime Minister Modi's invitation to Benjamin Netanyahu when he visited the country last year, and that is when Prime Minister Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel in the last 70 years. And this is the first time in 15 years when we have an Israeli Prime Minister visit India. These are live visuals that we are getting from New Delhi, from the airport where Benjamin Netanyahu has landed, and Prime Minister Modi is there to welcome him with other dignitaries, with other officials. And from here both these leaders will head to the Teen Murti Marg for a special ceremony. It's a historic 6-day visit, and remember, it starts today, where Prime Minister Modi and his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu will be meeting External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also. And tomorrow is when he gets a formal welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He'll be meeting President Ramnath Kovind, the Vice President Venkaiah Naidu, and other dignitaries. Then he'll be participating in a dialogue at Hyderabad House, which will also include a one-on-one discussion with Prime Minister Modi. Netanyahu is accompanied by his wife Sarah, and then they will be travelling to Agra to see the historic Taj Mahal, and then they will return to Delhi to participate in the Raisina dialogue. After which Prime Minister Modi will be accompanying Benjamin Netanyahu to Gujarat on Wednesday, where he will be welcomed with a roadshow. We are told that that roadshow is expected to be an 8-kilometer drive from the airport to the Sabarmati Ashram. After completing his Ahmedabad leg of the visit, he will head to Mumbai, where he will meet celebrities and open, in a way, doors to Bollywood, to Israel. And these are the live visuals that we are getting. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to shortly appear. He's at the airport. His aircraft has landed, and Prime Minister Modi is there to personally welcome his Israeli counterpart. All right, for more on this, I'm joined by WION's Associate Editor Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Palki, please give us more details. Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in Delhi. What can we expect from this historic visit?
Historic is the word, certainly. He's the first one after Prime Minister Ariel Sharon to be visiting India. And what a world of difference between these two visits. When Ariel Sharon came, people from the Israeli government say that they requested, he'd come to attend a conference, and they requested a half-hour meeting with the then Indian Prime Minister, and he wasn't granted it. That is how relations stood then. And today, the Indian Prime Minister is breaking protocol to receive him at the airport, in a sense, also responding to the gesture by the Israeli Prime Minister. Remember when Narendra Modi visited Israel just about 6 months back, he was accorded the kind of welcome that has traditionally been kept only for the Pope or the U.S. President. So India repaying in the same coin, and this is a visit that is going to span a lot of areas, from technology, defense, strategic cooperation to cultural ties. He's leading a delegation of 130 businessmen. More than 100 Israeli companies want to invest in India, from agriculture to water to cybersecurity, healthcare, security, you name it, and they want cooperation with India, and that is going to be planned. It's a 5-day visit. Several MOUs are expected to be signed and in fact, technology is an area where Israel and India see a lot of potential going forward. So that is something that is going to be focused on. This is the first visit, as we've been saying, of a Prime Minister after a gap of 15 years. And Israel and India, as partners, as strategic allies, have come a long way since the last visit, of course. And he's made those statements. There's a big delegation waiting, as you can see in those pictures. He's going to be received tomorrow. He, of course, goes to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. You've already outlined the broad itinerary of the Prime Minister of Israel. Tonight he's going to have a private dinner with the Indian Prime Minister. And there's a certain chemistry, of Archana, that has always come through between the Indian and the Israeli leaders. And that is perhaps the cement that binds the ties between the two countries.
Right. Palki, and as you mentioned about the growing ties between Prime Minister Modi and his Israeli counterpart. Remember last year when Prime Minister Modi visited Israel after 70 years, he was the first Prime Minister who visited Israel, and it was being seen as a big development, because nothing of this sort was witnessed lately. And as a lot of people also read way too much in the body language of both the leaders, the bonhomie that was on display, especially at the sea, and the language that both the leaders used for each other. They kept referring to each other as a close friend, as friend Benjamin or friend Modi. Do you think that this bonhomie, this many call it as a bromance, will also help both the countries inch further closer?
We'll have to wait and see. The last time, of course, the Indian Prime Minister visited, the media, of course, watched every move, and they said that the two Prime Ministers hugged each other in public 7 times. And that is a rare display of affection between heads of state. So, yes, there is a personal chemistry. Prime Minister Modi personally has always appreciated the Israeli model of development. As Chief Minister of Gujarat, back in 2006, he was part of a delegation that went to Israel to study what sort of innovation they've done in the field of agriculture. And he was one of the first Indian leaders, first Indian Chief Minister to have invited Israeli companies to do business with people and institutions in Gujarat. So personally, he holds them in very high esteem and appreciates the way they circumvent challenges to innovate. And I think, of course, a personal chemistry, a personal respect and mutual respect does play a role in the way states go forward. But at the same time, he's also shown that when it comes to national interest, for instance, India's vote at the United Nations Security Council goes on to show that they're not swayed by those things alone. They are going to, of course, be doing what suits each other. And the defense ties are going to be important to watch, because this comes amid reports that India has cancelled some deals, and that has not gone down very well with the Israelis.
Right. Palki, please stay on with us. I'm also joined by WION's Ramesh Ramchandran on the broadcast. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for joining us. And as Palki and I were discussing about how, there's a lot for India and Israel to exchange in terms of innovation and technology, especially how Israel has transformed its agriculture and the way it's devised a lot of techniques to conserve water. And this time around, we know that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will present a special gift, which is a water desalinization and purification jeep to Prime Minister Modi. Please give us more details as to how India could imbibe a thing or two from Israel as far as technology is concerned.
Archana, as we watch these live visuals coming to us from the New Delhi airport, where Prime Minister Netanyahu's aircraft has landed, and we are waiting for the official reception on the tarmac to begin. Just to give our viewers a sense of where India and Israel are located at the moment as we speak. Now, this visit in particular, Archana, is high on symbolism and substance alike. This is a visit in celebration of 25 years of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Israel way back in 1992, and also will be a forward-looking visit in the sense that the focus shall be and shall remain firmly on defense and security issues, as also a strategic focus on issues such as agriculture and water. Now, these two are subjects which are close to Prime Minister Modi's heart. Remember, he has visited Israel many times as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and also most recently as the Prime Minister, the first ever by an Indian Prime Minister, in July last year, where he visited, the projects happening in Israel on agriculture front, drip irrigation, water conservation, desalination. So all these issues will remain center stage on this visit as well. And if the Ministry of External Affairs has anything to go by, the strategic focus shall remain also, as I mentioned, on agriculture and water conservation. So this is an all-weather relationship, as Israel's ambassador to India mentioned not so long ago. And both leaders look forward to have a forward-looking agenda for the next 25 years, as it were, in the India-Israel relationship.
Right. And Ramesh, we also know how two countries are making a lot of efforts to bolster the ties, and especially the trade ties. In the field of oil and gas, we are expecting a lot of MOUs will be signed. Both countries will further enhance their engagement as far as resources are concerned. Could you please give us more details how Israel and India both could tap into these resources and help each other, economically?
Archana, the India-Israel relationship straddles many diverse areas, extending from defense and security, cyber security, homeland security, to other issues, as you mentioned, like energy security, agriculture, water conservation, culture, trade and investments, innovation and startups, science and technology, research and development, films. So it's an all-encompassing relationship, but the focus will be on security issues, be in terms of water security, energy security. He's accompanied by a 100-strong business delegation. One can expect a number of agreements to be signed on the margins of the talks here that will take place in New Delhi tomorrow, the bilaterals and the business summit. So clearly, the focus will be on the hard issues such as defense and security, and also on soft issues such as films, culture, trade and innovation, and startups.
Right. Ramesh, while we talk about Bollywood also, because earlier we had a guest on WION, and I had a conversation with that guest on Bollywood. They said that there's a lot of excitement as far as Bollywood in Israel is concerned. Let me just read out this tweet that has come from PMO. It says a special welcome for a special visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally receives Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at Delhi airport. So that's the tweet that's come from PMO. Ramesh, I was saying that we had a guest earlier on the broadcast, and he says that there's a lot of excitement about the Indian film industry in Israel. They want to, people in Israel want more of tourists coming in from India and vice versa. They want more people-to-people contact. How do you see that? Do you think that people-to-people contact must be enhanced and these visits should not just be restricted to diplomacy and business trips?
Well, Archana, Bollywood or India's film industry has always been a big soft power for India's outreach to countries around the world, including Israel. And Israel wants to tap into that resource or the reservoir of goodwill in terms, so to speak, and become the next big destination for Indian film producers and actors alike. Already we've seen one film being shot in Israel. That's the film entitled Drive, which features Indian actors Jacqueline Fernandez and Sushant Singh Rajput. There's another crew visited Israel recently to scout for locations for their film. This involves actors Ranbir Kapoor and Alia Bhatt. So a lot of activity happening on the Bollywood front as well. And remember, on the 18th evening, Prime Minister Netanyahu will have an outreach for the Bollywood personalities in Mumbai. Remember, that is the last leg of his visit, and he will have an interaction with Bollywood personalities, all in a bid to make Israel the next big attraction or destination for film producers to shoot their films and also to promote Indian films in Israel.
Right, and Ramesh, as we speak about this, opening doors to Bollywood, let's also give more details about that event that's called Shalom Bollywood, which is being organized for Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's going to meet a lot of celebrities, and he's going to also explore business opportunities for Indian filmmakers, and he's also going to meet some Jewish community leaders and members of the Indian business communities. On our screens now are the visuals, live visuals from the New Delhi airport, where you can see the red carpet being rolled out for Israeli Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi, Indian Prime Minister Modi is there to personally receive his Israeli counterpart. So that's the latest that we are getting. Ramesh, when you think of, when you talk about India and Israel, the first thing that comes to mind is that very strong allies. And as we've been highlighting how recently at the UN, India voted against the US and Israel as far as the Palestine resolution was concerned. India sort of chose to desert its two very strong allies and took a position at the UN. Do you think, how did that development pan out? Was that a hitch in ties between both the countries? Or as Palki mentioned, that nothing happened of that sort and both countries chose to move on and again seal a stamp of stronger ties as far as the two countries are concerned?
Archana, clearly in terms of optics for Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit to India, it would have come as a big disappointment of sorts for the Israeli delegation. The cancellation of the Spike anti-tank guided missile deal and also India's vote for the UNGA resolution against the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by the United States. So clearly the disappointment is there for all to see, but clearly the ambassador for Israel to India maintains and insists that it is not the be-all and end-all of the relationship. There's more to India-Israel ties than just that one UNGA vote or that one particular defense deal. It's all-encompassing, it's multifaceted, and both leaders want to have a forward-looking agenda in the sense that they want to leave all these, issues and divergences behind and look forward to another chapter, as it were, in the unfolding India-Israel ties, and that includes in areas of defense, culture, in tourism, in trade and investment. So clearly everything is on the table when the two leaders meet here in New Delhi tomorrow for the bilaterals, followed by the Business Investment Summit. So many such deals can be expected to be signed on the margins of the talks here in New Delhi as well.
Right, Ramesh, I think any moment now we can expect Israeli Prime Minister to arrive with his wife. For the benefit of our viewers who've just joined in, could you please also detail Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's itinerary for the day today?
Well, Archana, he has landed in Delhi, and the first engagement, the official engagement, will be a visit to the renamed Haifa Chowk in the heart of New Delhi by both Prime Ministers Netanyahu and Modi. Remember, Indian soldiers had played a crucial role in the First World War when the Lancers from three princely states of India had joined the conflict, the war, as it were, and that roundabout will now be renamed from Teen Murti Chowk to Haifa Chowk. Prime Minister Netanyahu will travel to his official hotel where Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj will call on him, and followed by a private dinner hosted by Prime Minister Modi in honor of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife and his official delegation later this evening. Tomorrow is the operative part of the visit, Archana. They will begin with a ceremonial reception on the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan, followed by a visit to pay homage to the father of Indian nation at Rajghat. and then the bilateral talks followed by a lunch hosted by the President of India and a business and investment summit later in the evening. And 16th morning, he will travel to see the Taj Mahal in Agra, followed by a speech to be delivered at the Raisina Dialogue, which is hosted by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. On the 17th, he will spend the whole day in Ahmedabad, in the state of Gujarat, where Prime Minister Modi will also be accompanying him. He will visit the Innovation Center in Ahmedabad and also inaugurate a Center of Excellence in Agriculture via video conference. He will land in Mumbai on the evening of 17th and 18th. He will spend the full day in Mumbai. Remember, Mumbai was the scene of the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai. And he will visit the Taj Mahal, the iconic Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai, which was destroyed in the terror attacks. He'll be accompanied by baby Moshe, who's now all of 11 years old. His parents were among those who died, the 6 who died at the Chabad House in Mumbai. He will be accompanying Prime Minister Netanyahu to the Chabad House and also to the Taj Mahal Hotel, which was the scene, as I mentioned, of the 26/11 attacks. And he will return to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem on the 19th morning. So it's a 6-day visit. It's a fairly long visit by any standards. He'll spend 4 days in 4 different cities. And to my mind, it'll showcase India's vast area, land, culture, and various dimensions of India's technological advancements over the years in Ahmedabad, Mumbai, New Delhi, and also Agra.
Right, Ramesh, and on your screens we have live visuals from the New Delhi airport, where any time now we'll see Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife appear in front of the dignitaries. Prime Minister Modi is there to personally welcome him. Ramesh, as we wait for that moment, let's also talk about the defence ties between the two countries. Remember, in 1992, during the Kargil war, nobody can forget how Israel helped India. Israel helped India with defense supplies, and then, as we spoke about that historic visit by Ariel Sharon, who became the first Israeli Prime Minister to visit. How do you see that trade? How do you see the defense ties between the two countries?
Archana, as we watch these first live visuals of Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu waving to each other and greeting each other on the tarmac of the airport in New Delhi, we are seeing these live visuals of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah descend from the aircraft, and Prime Minister Modi waiting in attendance on the tarmac, breaking protocol as it were to receive personally the visiting dignitary from Israel.
Yeah, so these are the live visuals from the New Delhi airport. Prime Minister Modi welcoming his Israeli counterpart and his wife, who are on a 6-day visit to India, and that handshake and that bear hug on display, which was also visible the last time when Prime Minister Modi visited Israel, and it was talked about. A lot of conversations and editorials were written on that, on those 7 hugs those were exchanged between Prime Minister Modi and Benjamin Netanyahu. And on our screens is that moment, that historic moment where the red carpet has been rolled out for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife, who are on a historic 6-day visit, and there both the leaders having a conversation. Ramesh, yeah, as I was talking about the day as it progresses, it's a busy day for both the leaders. I was talking about the defense ties between the two countries. Both countries came closer around 90s when Kargil war, during the Kargil war, when defense ties were bolstered, when Israel helped India massively with those defense supplies, and today we see Israel is one of the biggest partners as far as weapons are concerned.
Indeed, Archana, even before the two countries established diplomatic ties in 1992, Israel had played a key role, a crucial role, directly or indirectly, in almost all of the wars India has ever fought in the last 70-odd years. Most recently, in 1999, when you mentioned, Israel and Israeli companies played a crucial role in beefing up India's defense procurement and requirements in that conflict with Pakistan. But that said, the security ties, go back a long way, even before 1992, when the formal diplomatic ties were established. And since then, we've seen the India-Israel defense ties grow manifold, exponentially, some would say. And today, Israel among the top weapon suppliers to India, ranking right at the top along with the US and Russia. But that said, the unique feature of the relationship, Archana, is that Israel is also interested and able and willing to transfer technology for India and for Indian companies, and that, to my mind, would be a key area to look forward to in the years ahead. Several MOUs can be expected to sign, at least firmed up during this visit between the governments of Israel and India, and also among their private sector companies, which will be meeting tomorrow here in New Delhi. There's a lot of narrative and commentary about the cancellation of the so-called Spike anti-tank guided missile, which is more than valued at $500 million. But we're given to understand that there's talks on sealing or clinching the deal between the government to government on the models of the way India procured Rafale fighters from DCNS in France. So the Spike deal is very much on the table. The only change or the only negotiation that needs to be done is for both governments to come to an understanding on the pricing for the procurement of the Spike anti-tank guided missiles.
Right, Ramesh, the two leaders are, please give us more information. Where are these two leaders headed now? Because I think Teen Murti Chowk in Delhi will be renamed. Is it just right after this, the moment that he's landed, will he go to Teen Murti Chowk right away, or are there any other plans in the itinerary?
Indeed, Archana, the first official engagement of both Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu will be a visit to the now rechristened Haifa Chowk, which is in the heart of the capital, New Delhi, which is about a 10-minute drive from the airport. And we can expect them to visit the Haifa Chowk, which has been renamed in honor, in memory of the Indian soldiers in the undivided India before the partition, who fought in the First World War and in places far removed from their natural habitat. And there were regiments and cavalry regiments from three princely states of Hyderabad and including Mysore, who landed and contributed and laid the supreme sacrifice by laying down their lives in defending and fighting for their respective sites in the First World War. That'll be the first official engagement, and they'll also sign in the visitor's book kept there on the occasion. And that will be the first official engagement of Prime Minister Netanyahu's six-day visit to India. Historic in many ways, both high on symbolism and substance alike. Remember, this is only the second ever visit by an Israeli Prime Minister to India since 2003, when Ariel Sharon became the first Israeli Premier to visit India then. And this is the second such visit by an Israeli Premier by Prime Minister Netanyahu to India. Remember, Prime Minister Modi visited Israel last year in July. That was another historic event, historic visit, because that was the first time ever an Indian Prime Minister visited Israel. Before that, we saw reciprocal visits by the President of India in 2015, and a reciprocal visit by the President Rivlin of Israel to India in 2016. So clearly, there have been a lot of high-profile VIP visits taking place between India and Israel over the last several years. And this is just one among a series of visits that one can expect to happen in the days, months and years ahead.
Right. For the benefit of our viewers who've just joined us on the broadcast, the latest information is that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife have arrived in India. They are in the national capital. From here, they will first go to Teen Murti Chowk, and where the renaming of Teen Murti Chowk to Teen Murti Haifa Chowk will take place. From then on, they will be meeting External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. It's a historic visit in a lot of sense, and as our senior correspondent Ramesh has been telling us, how the two countries have inched closer as far as economic, defense and cultural ties are concerned. And Prime Minister Modi was personally at the airport to personally receive Israeli Prime Minister, and from here the two leaders will go to Teen Murti Chowk. And the last time when Prime Minister Modi visited Israel, a lot was talked about the body language, the bonhomie, the chemistry between the two leaders, and since it's a 6-day visit in India, we'll see a lot of it. And of course, a lot of MOUs are on the anvil, which will be signed between the two countries on agriculture, on cyber security, trade, investments. Ramesh, for the benefit of our viewers who've just joined us on the broadcast, could you please tell us the significance of this visit? as far as India and Israel are concerned, it's a 6-day visit. He will be from Delhi to Agra to Gujarat to Mumbai. Is there a reason why these locations were picked up, or what is the significance of going to each of these places separately, from Taj Mahal to Ahmedabad, which is to Gujarat, which is Prime Minister Modi's home state, and then to meeting the top-notch Bollywood names in Mumbai?
Well, to begin with, Archana, India and Israel are celebrating 25 years of establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries in 1992. So this year, between January last year and January this year, is the 25th anniversary celebrations of the two countries. And this visit by Prime Minister Netanyahu is a reciprocal visit to India, reciprocating Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel in July last year, and this will culminate in this visit, the anniversary celebrations. But that said, India and Israel look to harness their newfound, the support among both countries, among the people-to-people ties, government-to-government ties in areas of defense, security, culture, trade, investments. Innovation is one big issue which Prime Minister Netanyahu and Modi are expected to discuss in the days ahead, especially in terms of harnessing the youth potential, the democratic dividend, as it were, between the two countries, especially in areas of research and development, in science and technology, innovation, and which is why we're seeing both leaders plan to visit Ahmedabad, where they will visit the iCreate setup, the innovation technology hub, which encourages innovation and startup technologies in both Israel and India. So clearly, it's a multifaceted relationship, and both leaders hope to have a forward-looking agenda that will remain true for the next 25 years, as it were, in the relationship.
Right. Ramesh, a lot of has been written and spoken about how Israel turned around its agriculture, how Israel completely transformed its techniques as far as water conservation is concerned. And do you think it's important, especially when India too is struggling with agrarian crisis? Every day we see headlines of how farmers are suffering in India. There's an agrarian crisis. So do you think that could be a turning point for India and Israel, especially India could take a leaf or two from how Israel has transformed its agriculture and innovation techniques?
Indeed. Picture this, Archana. Israel is a country of just 8 million people as compared to India's population, which is burgeoning by the day. And in spite of that demographic handicap in terms, they have been successful in harnessing agriculture technology, in water harvesting, water desalination, in drip irrigation. So this, it's an area which is of interest to India immensely, agriculture and water. And Prime Minister Modi in particular approaches these two areas from a strategic perspective, a strategic lens, as it were. And Prime Minister Modi has been a regular visitor to Israel, even when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And he was always focusing on agricultural issues, water conservation. And India, by the way, hopes to have a national water conservation campaign going forward, for which Israel can be expected to play a very crucial role in the days ahead. On the agriculture front, Archana, India have set up 28 centers of excellence all over India in 11 states. 22 of them have been set up, and 6 more are on the anvil. And this essentially straddles, horticulture, in the area of fruits, in the area of water harvesting, drip irrigation, and efficiency. So these are areas which are of immense importance to India, and India sees Israel as a valuable partner in these two areas.
Right, and interestingly, a 130-member delegation is accompanying the Israeli Prime Minister, and these constitute businessmen from 102 Israeli companies. So a lot of focus will be on investment and how to boost economic ties between the two countries. Remember, if you take a closer look at statistics and figures, over the last 25 years, the bilateral trade between the two countries has increased manifold from $200 million to more than $4 billion. And especially at this time when both countries are inching closer as far as bolstering their economic and defense ties are concerned. So this also marks a tectonic shift, because this visit is seen as historic in a lot of ways, and especially if you look at investment, then these businessmen who are accompanying the Israeli Prime Minister will have a lot to offer on the platter. apart from that, as far as trade ties are concerned, apart from that, a major focus will be on cooperation in the technology sector. That also is being watched by a lot of people, because MOUs between the two countries as far as technology is concerned is being watched by world leaders, the world fraternity, journalists, businessmen, investors.
Personally received Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. This is a historic visit in many words, in a sense of the term, high on symbolism and substance. We're watching these visuals once again of Prime Minister Modi walking in personally to receive Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. Prime Minister Netanyahu is only the second Israeli premier to visit India in the last 15 years. Remember, Ariel Sharon became the first Israeli premier to visit India in 2003. And this is only the second ever visit by an Israeli premier to India by Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is now in New Delhi on a 6-day visit to India. And on the left-hand side of your screens are the live visuals coming to you from the now rechristened Haifa Chowk in New Delhi, where the two premiers will jointly attend the first official engagement of their 6-day visit. Remember, Haifa Chowk is being renamed after Haifa, which was a scene of the First World War, in which Indian soldiers from 3 different princely states of India had fought and made the supreme sacrifice of laying down their lives. And the two premiers will be, and as we are seeing the screens, they are about to reach the Haifa Chowk in New Delhi on their first official engagement of Prime Minister Netanyahu's 6-day visit to India. All right, these are live visuals coming to you from the Teen Murti Chowk in New Delhi, where Prime Ministers Netanyahu and Modi have arrived. As we are seeing these live visuals, the Teen Murti Chowk will be rechristened Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. Remember, Indian soldiers from the undivided India before partition had played a crucial role in the First World War in Haifa, where soldiers from 3 princely provinces had fought and laid down their lives in defense of their position. So Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu will visit this square in New Delhi and pay tribute to the fallen heroes and soldiers of undivided India. Remember, this will be their first official engagement of Prime Minister Netanyahu's 6-day visit to India, the second time an Israeli premier is visiting India.
Right, so these are live visuals that we are getting from the Teen Murti Chowk. And also, Ramesh, this is a very significant moment considering the growing closer ties between India and Israel. What is the significance of renaming an important landmark in India on a city that's actually based in Israel here?
Indeed, as I mentioned, Mohammed, this visit is high on symbolism and substance alike. This is the first official engagement of the two premiers at the Teen Murti Chowk, which will be rechristened officially as Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. Chowk is a Hindi word for square, and this has immense historical significance. Haifa was the scene or one of the locations of the First World War, where soldiers from undivided India played a crucial role and laid down their lives. And the two premiers will officially take part in a ceremony here to pay tribute to the fallen soldiers of undivided India. And they will also sign in the visitors' books kept there on the occasion. This will be their first official engagement of Prime Minister Netanyahu's 6-day visit to India. Only the second time an Israeli premier has visited India in the last many decades.
Absolutely, indeed. So this of course, is a historic moment in many ways. What you have, the 3 lances at that particular landmark represent the 3 bronze statues of the Teen Murti, represent the Hyderabad, the Jodhpur and also the Mysore Lancers, who are a part of the 15th Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade, who had carried out a victorious assault on the fortified city of Haifa on the 23rd of September in the year 1918 during the First World War. Now, of course, this is, of course, one of the key battles as the Allied forces had retaken the city of Haifa from the joint forces of the Ottomans, the Germans and the Austria-Hungary forces. Now, there was a clear part which had been played by the Indian soldiers, and this chalk, which of course till now had been known as the Teen Murti chalk, will now be renamed as the Teen Murti Haifa chalk. So we expect the premiers of the two nations, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also the Israeli Premier Netanyahu, who will of course be coming here as this chalk will be renamed and rechristened to point towards the growing closeness between the two nations. And also joining us on the broadcast, we have got Mr. Alan Pincus, who is the ambassador and former chief of staff to 4 foreign ministers from Israel. Mr. Pincus, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast. Now, this is, of course, a historic visit of Benjamin Netanyahu, who is here in India. How do you read the significance of this? Is this a relationship between the two nations which is now going to get only better and better from here, considering the fact in the past India had been a little shy of projecting itself as a very close ally of Israel, but now the reality is of course dawned between the two nations and they now see as very, very close allies.
I hope you can see me and hear me.
Yes, Mr. Alan Pincus, we can see you and hear you. Please do go ahead.
But I subscribe to everything you said in your introduction. I think this relationship will develop, will evolve. I think it will strengthen a long time. As you said throughout your show, it is a visit of both symbolism and substance. And I think this transcends whomever is prime minister in either country. The common denominators, the common interests, and the common areas of cooperation, technology, cybersecurity, agriculture, and perhaps others that haven't been explored yet, aside above and beyond defense, of course. I think this will expand. Yes, this relationship had a different character in the last several decades, but then again, India was in a different place. The world was in a different place, and for that matter, Israel was in a different place throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
And also considering the fact that earlier it was essentially, defense ties and cooperation in dealing with terror that India had been interested in Israel, but now the entire paradigm on basis of which the relationship will be taken forward has changed. What we are of course seeing is the closer ties which perhaps Israel is trying to tap into by having this great event with Bollywood actors. How do you see this going forward? Is this a projection of soft power of India in Israel? And also, how is India viewed in the state of Israel?
Well, India has always been viewed positively for its sheer size, cultural diversity, and other attributes of Indian society on all its facets, in all its facets.
Right.
Look, obviously there is an inherent asymmetry between India and Israel. India is big in both size, population, and economic power, and emerging as one. India will surpass China in terms of population within the next 40 to 50 years, as you know that. And Israel remains a small country, 8.6 million.
Right. Do stay on with this. Let me interrupt you there. The ceremony for renaming the Teen Murti Chowk is presently underway. Let's listen in to what's actually happening there. All right, so that is the ceremony for renaming the Teen Murti Chowk, which will now officially be from henceforth known as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk, to commemorate the very close ties, even historically, that India has had with the state of Israel. This, of course, is the Teen Murti Chowk, which depicts the three lancers who were a part of the Indian portion of the undivided India, who had taken part in the First World War and had retaken the fortified city of Haifa from the Ottoman forces in the year 1918. Ramesh, if I could come to you on this, this of course is extremely significant. The symbolism of renaming such an important chowk in the national capital of India on a city in the state of Israel just goes to show that India and Israel are now very close friends, and we're not shy of this relationship anymore like we used to be once upon a time in the past.
Mohammed, this is a very solemn ceremony, and we're watching these live visuals of the two premiers observe a moment of silence in honor of the Indian soldiers who laid down their lives fighting during World War I. And this ceremony will officially mark the formal renaming of the Teen Murti Chowk, or square in the heart of New Delhi, as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. And we are watching these live visuals of the two premiers observing a moment of silence. But just to bring our viewers up to speed with the significance of the monument itself, on your right-hand side, you can see the monument, the Teen Murti Monument, which has three bronze statues representing the Hyderabad, Jodhpur and Mysore Lancers, who were part of the 15 Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade. And they fought on the 23rd of September 1918 at Haifa during the First World War. And just by way of additional information, Mohammed, an Indian officer who laid down his life in the same battle was Captain Aman Bahadur, whose grandson later served as a brigadier in the Indian Army. So there we saw the two premiers observe a moment of silence in honor of the fallen Indian soldiers during the First World War at Haifa. And now they will sign in the visitors' book. And this ceremony will officially mark the formal renaming of the Teen Murti Chowk as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk. And just by way of additional information for the viewers, there are at various accounts of this battle all narrate the brave valor with which the Lancers undertook the assault on the garrisoned town, protected by a joint force of Ottomans, Germany and Austria-Hungary. The capture of Haifa cleared a route for the Allies to supply the city through the sea, and 44 Indian soldiers had made the ultimate sacrifice during the liberation of the city in World War I. And till date, the 61 Cavalry celebrates 23rd September as its Raising Day or Haifa Day.
So that was the Israeli Prime Minister and his wife Sarah there signing in the visitors' book, and also now Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi there signing in the visitors' book at the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk, as it has now been officially rechristened. And also Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to Twitter some moments after he was received by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi a little while earlier. He said, and I quote, "We've landed in India. Thank you to my good friend Narendra Modi for the warm welcome." So it's a very solemn occasion there as the Teen Murti Chowk has been now rechristened as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk, pointing out to the historic importance of this particular chowk, which is now a part of legend in so many ways for the historic battle that was fought at the city of Haifa, where the fortified city of Haifa was retaken on the 23rd of September in the year 1918 in the First World War from the Ottoman forces. So this is a visit of the Israeli Prime Minister which comes 6 months after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had visited the state of Israel. The Prime Minister Modi has of course broken protocol and has received his Israeli counterpart at the airport with a very warm hug. An honor that has been given to the former during his visit to the Jewish country by Netanyahu. Now, Netanyahu, of course, is accompanied by a 130-member delegation from various sectors, including cyber, agriculture and defense. And at about 3 p.m., Netanyahu is also scheduled to meet with India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. And the visiting dignitary on Monday at 10 a.m. will be given a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan tomorrow, which will be followed by a wreath-laying ceremony at the memorial of Mahatma Gandhi at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this is, of course, a visit that is high on symbolism. It also in many ways marks a new direction in which the Israel-India ties will go forth from here onwards. And also, Ramesh, if I could bring you in on this, the fact that India and Israel are increasing their cooperation, not just in the field of defense, but also in other important sectors like in cyberspace, in agriculture, in other fields of technology. This of course, bodes very well in terms of cooperation between the two nations.
Indeed, Mohammed, India and Israel enjoy a multifaceted, multi-dimensional bilateral relationship which straddles areas such as defense, security, homeland security in particular, cyber security as well, culture, tourism, innovation and startups, science and technology, research and development, you name it. I mean, the India-Israel ties